Hello, all you scabies. This is Grey Dancer, and I'm coming to you from the wilds of... Wait, which one are we in now? We're in Nashua now, New Hampshire. After we had the second or third Boston Brew. I'm here with Lee Allure.
Hello.
And we're joking about that because I forgot that these eastern states are squished so close together, and so I was talking about being in New Hampshire yesterday, or in Nashua, and we were in Waltham, which is close to Boston. Yeah, it was just kind of... I was confused. What day is it? I don't know what state I'm in. And this podcast, like most podcasts, is brought to you by my sponsors, which include karmarope.com.
Yay, rope.
Yeah, we definitely love their pay what you can model. I actually used their pay what you can model for selling the water bottles and notebooks, which worked out really well. I like it because I can be like, oh, you want a water bottle but you can't afford it? Take one. And then somebody else has paid like $5 for one, and it helped out. So they do the same thing for rope. They tell you to pay what you want for either hemp or jute. It's about the 5 millimeter diameter stuff, so a little bit thinner than the stuff that I'm used to, but a lot of people are liking that diameter right now. It is, I think, what Matt calls it is the gold standard. I think he got that from S&M too. I think his is also the gold standard. And I have tried out their rope, and it is really works really well. And you can't beat the price. So especially if you're going to do something messy, or you want to get some starter rope for your rope group or something like that, it's a great place to do it. And I have a new sponsor.
Yay!
Twisted Monk.
Oh, that's awesome.
This is his second podcast that he's been my sponsor for. He's been busy this weekend doing all kinds of new shooting for new instructional videos. He's always been one of the people that I talk about for going to get their videos. And and you probably haven't seen his color of the month this month.
No, what is it?
It's this beautiful kind of greenish blue thing that is just
No, I did see it.
You did see it.
Because somebody sent me a link into a chat room that I'm active in, and they were raving about the color. So, saw it. You should totally get some before it's out.
I've noticed a lot of people are dyeing their hair that color.
Everyone.
You know?
So there was a couple reddish toned heads at the crew, but there were 4 or 5 with that blue kind of color.
Remember, we had to be at the meet and greet. We were trying to put all the blue-haired people in one section.
Yeah, so unfair.
I know. My friend Sherbert has recently dyed her hair into mermaid colors, and Naya, my serva, has an entire Pinterest board full of people with that color hair, and she wants to do that. So I think it'd be great, and I would think it would be great to have that, except remember, the color of the month always sells out in about 2 days. Yeah. So you got to be fast to get that. But you can always find links to both karmarope.com and twistedmonk.com on ropecast.com, which is, of course, where you go to get the finest rope bondage podcast in the world, perhaps the solar system.
Perhaps the solar system.
Yes. I also want to give a shout-out. Naya and I are going to be heading out to Ramblewood direction pretty soon, and part of that reason is, of course, because we have events there. If you go to turtlehillevents.org, you'll see one of them. It's called the Crossroads, and Lee, you'll like this. Have you heard about the Crossroads?
Just a little bit.
So it's I always talk about how woo is kind of weird, and I think even when I was talking at the opening of the Gru, I was saying I'm not all that woo stuff, but whatever. This is for the woo stuff.
Oh, is it?
This is heavy woo. This is spirituality and all kinds of stuff, which makes you wonder why they'd invite me. Naya, I can totally understand why they'd invite her to teach, because she is very woo herself.
They're trying to convert you.
Maybe that's what it is. But they do have me teaching my woo what the fuck class, which is when I get to teach on a regular basis, and it makes an impression. I actually had someone at the San Diego Gru come up to me and tell me that she had seen my woo what the fuck class 2 years ago, and it had helped her with her relationship and helped her. It's a class about learning how to speak the language of a skeptic, which is my language, and talk with people who are woo and still be able to have good communication across lines.
So important.
Yeah. We apologize, by the way, for the air conditioning in the background. It's just, one of those things that happens when you're having a nice morning chat out in the beautiful, beautiful weather.
It's pretty nice. Look, there's a moon up there, too.
That's right. We
really
have the sun and the moon in the sky right now. Huh. So, that takes care of our announcements for now. And I should say, after the Crossroads event, we're sticking around, and we're going to be going to Ramble Grew,
Woohoo!
which at last count was edging on to 300 people.
That's super impressive.
For Ramblewood. It's the cheapest 4 days you'll ever spend at Ramblewood, so even if you don't like the Grew stuff, you should come anyway. And you'll get to see it just 2 weekends in a row if you really feel like it. I mean, we'll be kind of dirtier the second weekend, but yeah, so check out turtlehillevents.org and also what's the other one I said? Oh yeah, Ramblegrew. Ramblegrew.org or .com. That one, they tricked me with that. Oh, you can also find out about other Grews than Grew.space. There's still one more regular Grew this year, and that's in Columbus in October. So, Lee.
Yes.
Now, Lee is a friend of mine. I think we met at your hypnosis classes at Dark Odyssey, right? Several years back. And I actually got a fun chance to kind of show off at the Grew meet and greet, because when you and I had talked about hypnosis back then, I had explained to you how much I hated forgetting people's names and not being able to remember people's names and things like that. And you said, which you say quite often about a lot of things, oh, hypnosis can help with that.
It's true. I'm a big advocate for hypnosis.
Now, wait a minute. We have to set our cred. Did you learn your hypnosis from a accredited Japanese hypnosis master? And
I did. That? No, I learned it from. Actually, I just started doing it one day. I had been interested in it for a while. I literally had done no studying. I had looked up people in the Boston area interested in hypnosis, and then I'd wanted to hypnotize my then submissive. We're sitting in a bar in Philly listening to one of our friends play the piano there. We just finished dinner. We're talking about hypnosis. I say, I bet there's an app for that. One of our friends had just hypnotized her fairly recently, but their triggers didn't work for me. So I download this app called The Hypnotizer, which is flipping colored squares. I hold it up on her face. I start talking to her, and she face plants into me at the bar. And after that, I was hooked. So I haven't looked back. And then I got accredited about 5 years into doing it. So I really love it. It's just the best thing ever. And it's hard to convince me that hypnosis isn't good for most things.
I hear you. Now, I gotta confess, my skepticism about hypnosis has always been that I go into a hypnosis class, and the teacher will stand there, and usually it was a he, and they'll say something like, well, the reason I do hypnosis is because, I see how you rope people tying up these hands and tying their hands out there doing that stuff. I can do that without rope. And in my head, I'm always going, why the fuck would you want to do it without rope?
Lazy.
Yeah, well, okay, I get that. Although, honestly, having tried hypnosis a little bit as a active person, I don't find anything lazy about it. But it's got to be. I mean, another fantastic hypno Lee person is Lee Harrington, who is also obviously into rope. So obviously there's some crossover. So what can a rope person learn from hypnosis, or how could hypnosis work with rope people?
So a lot of people do hypnosis and rope together, and some people find that doing rope allows you to get to an altered state anyway. So if you're combining a deliberate altered state, which is hypnosis, with an altered state of rope, you can find that you can have somebody in a suspended state, but perhaps you're saying to them, imagine that you're flying now, as though there weren't any ropes on you. Or perhaps you can just draw on their skin with your finger and say, feel the rope going over your hand. So you can either take away the rope, or you can add rope, or you can make the rope alive. There's a lot of people into tentacle type stuff.
Yeah, there you go, tentacle porn in that. I also, didn't you once tell me there's you can sort of suggest that the sensitization of other things, I think it was something along the lines of turning the body into one giant clitoris.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yes, all your nerve endings can totally come alive. Whichever nerve endings you'd like, by the way. If you want absolute pleasure or overload pleasure or sadistic pleasure, you can make that happen with rope too, but it's really easy to do it lightly with hypnosis and rope, so that you don't have to get that same I almost hurt my nerve bundle type thing.
Yeah. And although I wonder if there's any danger. No, there isn't any danger. Actually, if I understand hypnosis correctly, your mind never takes itself out of actual I'm going to take care of myself.
Well,
So, I just tell you before you answer, the reason why I'm saying this is because one of the concerns I could see being brought up would be, okay, well, if I've turned my arm into a clit, then I'm not going to be able to understand if I'm having nerve injury pain or something like that. So, is that a danger, or is that?
well, it's possible that it could be a danger, that you could feel so good. And this happens without hypnosis,
Oh, yeah,
too.
absolutely. Analgesics come out with the endorphins. And,
But you can feel so good that you're unaware of the fact that, oh, I broke my arm and I'm still punching this guy in the face,
Right.
for example. But yes, I always build in safeties to say, and if anything happens to go wrong, make sure that your body lets us know.
Gotcha.
By doing something, or just by you saying, oh, wait, there's something not quite right, and then you can check it out.
Now, built-in safety, that almost sounds like hypnosis is something that you shouldn't try without having some kind of training or at least understanding of it.
I think understanding it is good, but a lot of people use hypnotic language without even knowing about it. And if you're using hypnotic language without even knowing about it, maybe you should learn more and harness your abilities to do really cool things. And if you don't know that you're doing something that you're doing, maybe somebody else will point it out to you at some point in time. I have a lot of people that are into hypnosis as a bottom on some level, and they come up to me and go, oh my God, my top has been doing this for years, and they didn't even know it. So
I have been accused of possibly doing this on the podcast.
Imagine.
And I think it could have it, because people usually listen to the podcast, to a podcast, whatever, while they are doing something that requires some action, but they're in a comfortable space, and they are tending to do something as repetitive, like washing dishes or folding laundry or driving. And I've had people say that they get lulled, by the mellifluous sounds of my voice.
that's right, your soothing dulcet tones.
Yes, soothing dulcet tones. That's right.
And a lot of people find that if they're listening, especially if you're a talky kind of top and you're describing what you're doing to someone while you're doing it to them, not everyone does that, but some people do. Maybe they're sharing with you the suggestion that as they do this, you might feel that, and you realize that what they say begins to happen to you, then maybe you want to suggest that they look into hypnosis a little bit more if they haven't already, so that they can really take advantage.
I know. So what is the difference between hypnosis and suggestion? Because, I can think of times when I would have a partner in some state of sexual arousal, and I will use my voice to kind of start where they're at, like saying, oh, you're feeling this, and I'll just kind of make suggestions. Oh, you can't wait for this. Oh, you feel it building. Oh, you can feel it. Wow, you really want that, don't you? Boy, I can see how you really want that. You really, and on and on and on. And then finally I get to the point where I say, come, and they, quite often, that just leads to a mind-blowing orgasm. Not always. I'm not saying I'm a master of it all, but it's neat when it happens.
Yeah.
Is that a form of hypnosis?
I would say yes. So,
Really?
in my view, hypnosis is an altered state where you are heightened to accept suggestions, and it could be an altered state where you're not really paying attention, and you, out of the corner of your eye, see this ad for some restaurant, and then 2 days later you're like, oh, I gotta go to that restaurant. Or it could be more direct, like you're giving me these specific suggestions about pleasure and about arousal, and my brain goes, well, that sounds like a great idea, let's make that happen. So usually there's a focus with hypnosis that there isn't, say, with meditation, where you try to empty your mind. But if you're in a heightened state of pleasure, usually you're focusing on the pleasure already, and it's pretty easy to find yourself experiencing that, as you said, mind-blowing pleasure experience.
Yeah, I'm laughing at the whole ad thing, because I don't know if you've read about this, but the new one is that they're going to start taking the facial pictures that you take on Facebook and inserting them into the people that you see in ads. Or inserting a combination of your facial features in someone else, so it looks vaguely familiar. And I'm like, wow. You know what this does? This changes the whole game for gonzo porn. Because the whole idea of gonzo porn is that you're, POV. But if you could watch yourself on, I can't remember his name, Derek something. Anyway, on the body of this massive porn star doing these things, I mean, I can totally see that being I'm sure somebody who is rich enough and has the software capabilities has already done that. Map your own face onto some porn star that is doing it. That's kind of scary.
It's kind of scary. I'm going to have to... I read that you can defeat the cameras by painting your face with, like, black and white triangle splotchy things so that they can't pick you up. And I can imagine that the really paranoid might start going around
tattoos,
with those on their face.
Or something like that. Huh. Wow. Scary stuff. Now, I never finished my story. So for those of you who are being skeptical out there, because I know you're out there, hypnosis doesn't work on me. So when I was having that problem of not remembering names, and I mentioned it to you, you said hypnosis could help with that. And I said, all right, I'll give that a try. And we went to the, I think it was Sexapalooza or Sexorama.
Yeah, we went to Sexorama.
And it figures we would go to Sexorama and do hypnosis, and then just, do memory. What were we thinking? Anyway, so you led me through some hypnosis to be able to improve my memory.
Right.
And I remember your words. I remember what happened. And I got to tell you, it really worked. The very next event I went to, I heard something which I had never, ever heard before, which was somebody came up to me after the event and said, how the hell did you remember all the names? And you'll still see that. I still get that. It's not quite as, like, for right after the hypnosis happened, it was like ironclad. It's like I knew everybody's names. I think the most that I remembered at one event was 80.
That's pretty good.
And it was no problem. It was like it just clicked, and the images that you gave helped me do that. And I've still been able to do it a lot more. I mean, you saw it at the event here. You know, I was able to go around the table of like 25 people that I just met and name everybody's names and introduce them. Yeah. And presenters out there, let me tell you, it makes a huge difference when you see somebody and you know their name.
Yeah,
and
people
they don't
really
expect
respond
that.
well to that.
They really like that.
They're like, oh, you remembered me, as opposed to just you being the one that's being remembered.
And to be fair, it's not like I expect people to expect presenters to do that. It's not. If you're traveling or presenting, you meet a lot of people. Yeah. But I definitely have to say that anybody who is skeptical about hypnosis, I am not one of them. I definitely think it's impossible. Or it is possible. And I think it's that some people think of it as hypnosis is equivalent of magic, and I think if instead you call it a mind hack, it might be a little bit more...
I think it feels like magic a lot of times, especially if you've had a behavior for a long time that you have been unable to overcome, and then all of a sudden in like a half an hour or an hour, that block isn't there anymore and you're able to do something new. So it can feel like magic, but I say mind hack is probably a lot closer to it. We're definitely accessing the brain.
You know what would be either a benefit or just a mind fuck for the bottom?
What's that?
Would be, because there's always that complaint of these things take too long. Yeah. Right? And I know that you can do like time lapse kind of things.
You can totally warp time with hypnosis.
So you could say to somebody, I'm going to pull out my rope, put them into a trance, probably with suggestions of you will let me move your body the way I need to do it, whatever, things like that, and then suddenly and put them into that intricate, amazing tie, and then take them out, and they went from I'm just standing here with no rope on to suddenly I am completely bound.
Yeah, that would be super hot.
That would be, and there's probably a lot of bottoms that are sitting there right now going, oh my God, that would be awesome if we didn't have to sit there and wait for the whole thing, just have it happen. But there's also probably more than a few people, because we talk about consent here a lot on the Ropecast. There's probably more than a few people that are saying, wait a minute, if they're not aware of what's going on while the rope's going on, then how are you preventing somebody from, groping, doing things that they didn't agree to?
So what you talk about is the rope, and you talk about what they know is an appropriate placement of rope or hands, and allowing them to be safe in their own heads, in their own environment. So you want to make sure that something I might say to somebody is, as the rope goes on and as you find yourself more and more bound, you'll of course be able to, even unconscious people can talk, so I want to dispel that notion that, you're a little puddle. So if you're unconscious and in a deep state of trance, your unconscious is capable of communication. So let your unconscious, or let your bottoms unconscious, be freely able to communicate with you. It's good for safety, it's good for communication in general, so it's good for that trust. And if you have that, I think what you'll discover is that if somebody really trusts you, that they are going to let you put the rope on them, and as they get more and more rope on them, time perhaps speeds up.
Ooh.
And
oh wow, speed up.
Yeah.
That'd be cool too.
And then by the time you're done, it's like, oh, it just went by like that in an instant, kind of.
I'm thinking about the presenters who teach speed rope and speed bondage, and they're all going, but that's not fair. You know?
Fair is relative.
Yeah, very true.
And your perception is what creates the speed. So
right, that's very true. I mean, to Saki Kamizu, we are all doing really slow bondage. So she's a Japanese performer that is the fastest. I mean, I was sitting as close, maybe a little bit further from what we're sitting right now, but not that much, watching her go, and her hands were a blur. It was amazing. Long time ago, Shibaricon. Anyway, so you do hypnosis events and tickling events, right?
I do.
So why did you decide to do a rope event?
Well, I like the idea of using rope. I've always been a sort of a little bit of a lazy top, and I always used like leather cuffs and clips, and it made me faster at what I was doing. I guess I find this impatience to get to the good stuff, and for me, as much as I love looking at people in rope and I love the artistry of it, I perhaps was just never really great with rope to do.
You just hadn't met the right rope yet?
No, I guess so. So I like the artistic aspect of it, and I think it was time for me to learn a little bit more, to expand my horizons, and this weekend was certainly pretty good at that. I mean, I didn't expect to see people, two double suspensions, two people suspended at the same time with, I guess, some of the same rope.
Multi-partner suspensions, yeah.
I saw some really nice ways to tie up legs and hips with rope that I thought was beautiful, and both sides seemed really happy with their work. And I saw, I'm not sure exactly what his scene name is, so I don't want to talk about that, but that last scene that we saw, with they were just, I did have a conversation, and he said that was a pretty much a power bottom, and could do a lot of masochistic stuff. So this was this beautiful scene where there was rope and positions and new positions and different kinds of rope and more positions, and it just was so fluid and so interesting to watch that I'm really glad I did it. It made a big difference to get to see a lot of ropey stuff.
You know, the other interesting thing about this, I mean, you'd think, I just did a group in San Diego 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I want to come to another one this fast? The style of rope from coast to coast was just amazing. And this weekend was also fire. And I'm sure that in fire, there was a whole lot of seminawa, torture rope, and a lot of... EM was talking about how he wants to torture all the boobies now because there was so much great stuff. But in San Diego, it's very, very... based around the Asian forms, the Japanese bondage, but out here it is much more of a not EM called it form follows function. It's about, does this work? How does this do? Which makes sense. I mean, topologists came from this area. Parker came from this area. A lot of great rope has happened in the Massachusetts and New Hampshire area that was developed.
Yeah, we had a couple classes on the Somerville reverse bowline.
Yeah. Well, they had reverse and double and all kinds of things like that. Yeah,
and regular, right?
And regular, yes, we do the regular too. But when I was watching the last scene that they had, the one that closed down the dungeon, I was noticing that so many of the ties, it was like watching a brand new art form, because I'm so used to seeing the Japanese influenced bondage that I forget that there is a whole level of Western suspension and techniques that are out there, and that's actually what I originally learned on it. So it's kind of neat to see this kind of amazing stuff happening, but with different styles, and have the respect for both. And
the other thing that I really liked about the GRU style is that it's unconference, so it's a ropey oriented event, but that was definitely not all we did. And it was great to see all the stuff that people brought. I mean, we had some amazing classes.
You want to talk about sup ladies?
Well, I didn't actually get to attend that one. I was doing something else, and I sort of I did overhear the beginning.
Yeah. So sup ladies was a class proposed, and it was, I don't know exactly what it was, the official title was about, but basically it was about the experience of trying to date and pick up and things like as a queer woman in the scene.
Yeah.
Or queer woman, period. And it was interesting because I heard a lot of talking about, misgendering and mistaken orientations, and, it was actually kind of funny. There were parts of this, and I'm like, huh. So actually, a lot of the difficulties that they have are the same as the difficulties that a straight person has. It's in a different environment.
Yeah.
But it was also really, really neat because it was a big class.
There was probably about 12 or 15 people in there, I think.
The bottoming round table was also one like that.
Yeah.
Chasing Amy had said, had noticed that there weren't any bottoming classes on the agenda wall. And she came up and I said, I've noticed there's no bottoming classes. I said, yes. And of course, what would I say? You ought to put one up there. Well, I don't know if anyone would want to come to it. And I said, well, why don't you put up a round table? See what happens. And she did,
and
it was
happened.
huge. It was like, there was all kinds of people sitting, and they were there for a long time. And there was a few classes like that where people were like, well, I don't know if anybody's going to want to come to this, and then boom, it happened.
Yeah.
And the other person who did that, I don't want to say her name on the podcast, but she knows lizards, so she knows what I'm talking about. She put up can someone teach me about self-suspension?
Yeah.
And it was interesting because she put it up there, and a local rope teacher showed up. And again, she had her first name on her name tag, so I don't know if I can say it out loud here, so I won't say who it was. But she definitely knew what she was doing. She was the one who taught the Somerville Bowling classes and things like that. And she came in, and I noticed it's like she was helping like 5 other people doing this is when you saw the different kinds of waist harnesses. And meanwhile, the person who had done the class was standing off to the side and was like, doing it herself. And I was like, shoot, I hope she's going to get what she wants out of the class. But here's the neat part. After the teacher was done with those people, she then went one-on-one with the person who proposed the class and got her further on her self-suspension journey. So
that was really fascinating to watch.
Yeah, the space, I was worried it was going to be small, but it turned out really good.
It worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it worked out really well. It was about 40 some people actually showed up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good group.
Yeah,
well done.
I liked it. Thanks. It's all you.
No, that's the best part about this. Hardly any of it was me. I walked around. I talked a little bit at the beginning, and then I walked around and talked about when classes were going to start. I didn't teach any of them except for the 22 push-ups that we did.
By the way, did you do your push-ups today yet?
I have not done my push-ups today yet. I'll probably do them at home with Naya, though. I'm flying home today. And at the end, I discovered this at the San Diego Gru, actually. I've always tried to figure out how to close out a Gru well. Like, what kind of inspiring words can I say, and da-da-da. And 60 Grus, and I had just really never hit on anything that really felt like it was working. And then I finally realized at the San Diego Gru, after closing circles and everybody's gone around, I don't need to say shit because everybody's already said it. So now I just get up there and I basically say thank you to the people that organized it. Thank you to the people. That's something I didn't remember to do at the San Diego Gru. Actually, I apologize, especially to Cheryl for that. But thank the people that did it and that were involved. Thank the people that were there, and shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and we had some amazing participants.
Yes.
I mean, there was so much contributing. There was a really great energy, and it was thrilling. All of it was thrilling to watch and to be at.
Okay, can I tell you something interesting? Petrona counted the classes that we actually did, and there were 39 classes that we did.
That's amazing.
And there were about 43 people at the Gru, which means just about everybody. There's like 1 class 2 person ratio, and I kind of like that idea.
That's
almost
pretty
a 1-to-1
cool.
ratio. So, are you going to do another one?
Yeah.
Hey, put you on the spot right here.
Yeah, let's plan for another one next year.
All
We'll
right.
make it better.
Excellent. Then that's the other fun part of it. We don't have to make it better. We just have to invite more people, and it'll automatically be better.
It'll automatically be better.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I have to now shift into... Well, first of all, let's get back to the hypnosis thing. If somebody out there is listening to this and going, rope and hypnosis, 2 great tastes that taste great together, how should they go about doing that? I mean, you teach...
I don't teach a hypnosis and rope class. There are other people that are more into rope that do that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's definitely classes out there if you want to take them. They're usually at the hypnosis events, although it's possible that maybe I could get a little bit more into rope and teach something at
Start coming out there.
one of the big events that I go to, which tends to be the Dark Odyssey ones.
If you come up with the hypnosis and rope class, it's very possible there's this event called Ropecraft that might be interested in having you do
really?
that. I don't know. I'll talk to them.
All right.
They might be interested.
But I would suggest that hypnosis is pretty easy to learn, and if you learn it well, you'll find that you get really remarkable results. And so I encourage a lot of people to learn hypnosis. I'm not, I feel like knowledge should be shared as opposed to hoarded.
Is it the kind of thing you can just go on YouTube and learn, or should you get a book, or is there?
So, yes.
Okay.
So I would say that there's a couple things you can do. There's a couple books that I loved that really helped me when I started doing hypnosis. And one was called Guide to Transformations by Richard Bandler. And it's supposed to be a guide to a book called Transformations. So you could get that too, but honestly I just started with the guide and it was immensely helpful. And also there's a book called The Teaching Tales of Milton Erickson by Stanley Rosen. And Milton Erickson is considered the grandfather of modern hypnosis. He was a really amazing storyteller and wordsmith, and he would adjust people and fix their issues. He was a psychiatrist, so he did that for his professional capacity. And he would fix people and do really sort of sneaky mind games all the time. He may have had some consent issues. He used to shake people's hands, and they would find that their hand was sort of perhaps paralyzed or cataleptic for a little while. It got to the point where his colleagues would no longer shake his hand, but that's okay. He's still worthwhile to read about, or to read his transcripts of a lot of his sessions, because there's a lot of that out there, or even to watch the videos that exist of him. But on my website, which is leeallure.com, there's a couple classes, and there's a 101 class that you can download the outline from, and there's also a You've Got Them in Trance, Now What outline. So the 101 class, I don't advocate the use of scripts for the most part, but for people who are just starting out, you may not already have the words in your head as to how to get somebody in a trance. So there's a transcript in there of a trance I did with somebody in the 101 class that you can read, you can use with your partner. And also for the group, I don't know how available this is for people, but I'm going to put up a worksheet with an Elman induction, which is a very high success rate induction. That means to get somebody into a trance. Right. And that will be available, I guess, probably by the end of today, whatever that ends up being. And it's going to be, just very successful. And when you learn to use, either a script or an induction, like a physical follow-along induction, it makes it a lot easier. And from there, you could go and do just about anything. And You've Got Them in Trance, Now What lists a lot of the things that you could do. So some people, I tend to be really direct in my style, and other people tend to be, sort of a little more mystical about it. But however you do it, if you're getting results, that's what you're going for.
Does it matter with the person and the subject if you are more mystical or direct and things like that?
It might matter. It's good to know your audience. So if your subject is a mystical person, you may want to use reference to the things that are important for them while you're putting them into a trance state. But it's really not very complicated to do hypnosis. It may be more complicated to do it well. It might be sort of like chess, right, because there's a lot of possibilities and we may not even know all of them. Gotcha. And so you could play all sorts of games, and at some point in time, it's less adversarial, except for the fact that there's two people, so or maybe more people. You could often do groups hypnosis with multiple subjects or multiple hypnotists or both.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
So I just encourage people to learn, to read about it, and to pick up stuff that is going to make your language and your communication skills as effective as possible.
Cool. Okay. And wait, the next thing I was going to be asking you about your website and stuff like that, but you did that already. Okay, so it's time for the lightning questions that I ask people that I'm interviewing. Okay. What is your favorite food?
Probably Indian food in general is my favorite food.
You and I can have fun with that. Okay.
I eat almost anything though, so
Beverage of choice?
probably water.
Water? Okay.
Yeah, I drink a lot of water.
Health, not you. And she, by the way, she was motioning to the fact that she has water, and I, of course, have coffee this morning, so we can tell you who's more concerned with her health.
Coffee's good for you too.
What's if I said, hey, I need to have one book to take with me on this long trip, what book would you recommend I take with me? Fiction, nonfiction, anything?
I am currently rereading the Game of Thrones because they're big and meaty stories, and even though I know them, I discover new stuff every time.
Gotcha.
I kind of like that story. At heart, though, I'm a spy story reader, so
Okay.
I really love those. I don't have one. There's so many. I read super fast. I can go through a couple books in a day. It's bad to ask me for one book.
Did you read the original Bourne books by Ludlum?
I think I did.
Those are pretty damn good.
Yeah.
In the original books. Nothing like the movies, but they're really good. Okay, how about we watched a couple movies yesterday.
Yeah.
But if somebody said, hey, what's your favorite movie? Would you give
So
one?
I have a few. So
Okay.
either Back to the Future, Willow, The Princess Bride, or Groundhog Day.
Really?
Those are ones that I can either watch or listen to just about any time. I would throw Die Hard in there because
I was surprised you didn't mention Die Hard.
Yeah. They're sort of old school and they're classic, and I can fall asleep to them or I can stay awake to them. They're all good. I know
Gotcha.
most of those pretty much by heart.
Yeah. Groundhog Day is kind of one of those, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. And the older I get, the more I look at it and I'm like, yes, this is a very profound, this is like, the reading about Siddhartha Buddha and things like that, really. It's just told in a different way.
And, it's sort of fascinating because it's kind of cultish, and they estimate that he spent 10 years on that one day until he got things right. Can you imagine what that would be like if you had to spend 10 years to get your life in order? I think for a lot of people that's probably a pretty true path.
I think, and he had the advantage, in air quotes here, of having nothing else change.
Yes.
That's the problem. I mean, we all spend 10 years. The problem is that the rules change as we go along. Okay, so good job on the movie. Oh, I'm surprised. What do I say next? What is something that's in your toy bag that would surprise people?
Because I do a lot of hypnosis, and that usually involves, it could involve touching, but it usually doesn't involve a ton of touching. People might be surprised to discover that I have a bunch of nasty rubber toys that I love using.
That's right, we were looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. They make me very happy. I love the marks that they leave.
Yeah.
And I love how owie people get. Even with just like a stroke or two, they cause welts and they're beautiful, and I like how easy they are to take care of. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a magic wand, and really with hypnosis this would be easy. I have a magic wand, and I can wave this magic wand, and I can make anyone, past, present, future, fictional, or real, appear, and they want to play with you. So who would you like me to have manifest? And, bonus question, what would you like to do with them? You don't have to answer the second one, that might be too private, but the who is important.
I am a big David Tennant fan, or maybe a David Tennant fan. I'm not sure if it's just his doctor or his
Doctor Who or Jessica Jones?
For the love of God, both.
Oh
my God,
they're
it's
really kind of the same.
The best, worst character ever.
Yeah.
If you have spoilers, if you haven't seen it, too bad. It's been out for a long time. But
Jessica Jones?
Yeah, I was like, oh, they did what to him? How could you get rid of that character? It was such a phenomenal trope. Also, the mind control was really intriguing.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that would apply.
So David Tennant, and I don't know what I do.
Oh boy, that's not surprising. Okay, so last question: what is your favorite dirty word?
I don't know that I have a favorite dirty word. I have a favorite dirty-ish phrase. I like fuck a duck.
Fuck a duck. Did you decorate the guest bathroom?
No, that's my housemaid.
Because there's a lot of ducks in there, and one of them is a duck spider, and I'm not talking about a spider duck, like Spider-Man costume on a duck. No, it's a freaking spider with a duck's head, and that thing is, I'm just like, that's so full of no. Just no. Fuck a duck. Okay. Cool.
So hypnosis is really great for getting over Things that you don't like?
Self-discipline and just refusing to let people see how terrified you are of spiders works very well too.
Alrighty. Yeah.
Says the domly dom. So great. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And I want to thank my sponsors, KarmaRope.com. Pay what you can for really good rope that is taken off the spool, put in a plastic bag, and sent to you. And also to TwistedMonk.com, our new sponsor. And I can't wait to see what you do with those new instructional videos. You can see the old instructional videos, including in multiple languages. He has subtitles in Spanish, too, for basic rope bondage skills. And don't forget to check out turtlehillevents.org to check out the Crossroads event where Naya and I will be going. That's in 2 weeks, but before that, we are going to be going to Columbus for an intensive. I get to be a student. I get to learn from Murphy Blue, but even better, I get to learn from Lizard. Oh. I mean, Murphy Blue is awesome, but Lizard is going to be teaching as well. And so,
it'll be a sexy class, I'm sure.
It will be amazing. Yeah, they're going to do a one-day intensive, and the second day we're doing a rope in space, so, which is kind of like a Gru Light kind of thing. It'll be a lot of fun. And then off to Turtle Hill, we're going to also have an interview with the leader of the Turtle Hill events and talk about all of the things that she's been up to coming up on the Ropecast next week. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here.
Being my hostess here. This has been a fantastic event and fantastic place to stay.
We're so happy to have you.